Hi, I'm Fred, and you're watching Homo Ludens, the channel history and board games. Today, I'm joined by acclaimed Italian designer Paolo Mori, whose hits like Pandemic Fall of Rome, Ethnos, Blitzkrieg, and more prove that streamlined rules can still deliver depth and at times also historical flavor. And this is why I wanted Paolo to be on the show today. We'll discuss his journey as a designer, how research might shape his mechanisms, and get a sneak peek into a Napoleonic battle system that he recently self-released that I'm really interested in and that the Homo Dance community is so excited about. Hi, Paolo. Thanks for being here
Hi, Fred.
today.
It's an honor to be here.
I'm super excited to have you here because even though on this channel and what most people see of me online when I'm talking about board games is more on the heavy side, more on the historical war games and stuff like this, I've been following your work since Pandemic Fall of Rome. For me, a design that made me enjoy Pandemic because I'm not a big fan of Pandemic. I think there are interesting iterations, and I think it's an amazing design. No problems here. It's just that I'm not a big fan of playing this game. But Pandemic Fall of Rome was the first time where I was like, oh, I'm interested in this designer because what they did was bringing history into a model that is accessible to a wider audience that is very successful is really interesting. And I thought that using Pandemic to depict the collapse of the Roman Empire was a really interesting idea. And then after that, I saw that you released Blitzkrieg that I got early at Essen because I was so excited about. And you did a lot of games that I was interested in, even non-historical ones. So Ethnos is one of them, the first edition of Ethnos. The first time I played it, I was like, oof, this is so good. Like it's typically my kind of area control game that I enjoy a bit. And even recently, I've been really hooked on Toy Battles, a game that is going to be released in May, I guess, in different countries. That I think is a really interesting take on like a modern Stratego or Jungle Chess or something like this, even if it works slightly differently, there is definitely this vibe, and I thought that was interesting. And this is why I'm so excited to speak to you, because I feel like you're in that area between mainstream designs, but you can feel in your work that you have an interest in history, and sometimes you feel that maybe you're even a bit of a hidden grog nerd. So that's the thing that I would like to discuss today. But maybe my first question for people to better understand who you are and where you came from, I was wondering what were your earliest memories of playing games, and at what moment did you realize that you wanted to design your own games?
I think that thank you for the kind words. Of course, it's interesting because it's I have a similar opinion on some other games, also pandemic. But regarding your questions, okay, I think that the story is similar to that of many other designers and players. So my first memories, of course, were of playing board games with my brother, with my elder brother, and card games with my parents and with my grandmother. No, so that's how my playing history, playing history began. Of course, where my playing history is divided in phases. So when my brother, discovered the role playing games in the middle school,
Mm.
I just followed him. So we had the company, with for some years, and that's also the place where I discovered other games because our master had some BattleTech and other games in his basement. So I discovered other games, and then I never really stopped playing. No, from there, I not really stopped playing, but slowed down at the university, and then I got back after just right after the university when I found through a news group, really at the prehistory of the
Of
internet,
internet, yeah.
some people that were playing board games here near Parma, that's the city where I live, and so I just approached him and asked him if I could some we could spend some night playing games, and so that's my current gaming group was born. And also Andrea, that was the name of the guy that was hosting the our first gaming nights, was also designing games for a contest that is quite famous. That is the Archimede contest, is for game designers, that is held in
Mm.
Venice every 2 years. and so it's also the moment where I discovered that okay, I
Oh,
had
that's
fun
aspect. Yeah.
play testing games and also designing games. That's it. So it's of course I always design games because people who play usually just
Yeah.
maybe create house rules or design variants of games. But that's the moment where I did discover that I really enjoyed the process behind designing games.
That's really interesting because in a lot of ways we have a similar journey. I'm also a younger brother of a brother that was a bit of by some aspects, a bit of a geek, and I followed him in all this journey. And we went to Magic the Gathering together and everything, and it shaped a bit the direction that I took. And it's interesting the thing that you say about having design always being part of your experience as a player because you were making house rules and everything. But I guess when you're talking about the specific event, like the contest in Venice, it gives a specific target, and you're not designing for a small group of players anymore. You're designing for a wider audience. So you could see probably that the development process was a bit more demanding. At what time did you think I would like to do this, to stop doing house rules and variants and everything and start doing designs for other people that are probably going to interact with my designs, not through me and my gaming group, but by themselves? And what triggered this, and what was the first prototype that you came up with?
I think that's the moment was just right after I started to playing as we call them modern board games. No, that one that
Yeah.
we call them. I don't know if the same term is used in France. We call them German games. So it's the very first game that's it, because that's of course was the origin also many of the
Yeah.
games we were on the table. No, so that's the first game that I remember playing with my gaming group is was Heufrat und Tigris. I call it with the
Oh,
original names
yes.
that it's okay by
Yeah.
Rainer Knizia. No,
Yeah.
and okay,
One of
and
my
my
all-time
mind was
favorites. Yeah.
okay, and my mind was
Yeah.
blown because okay, of course, I played board games in the past, no, mostly American games, like I said, just like BattleTech or something like that. But this was an entirely new level of game and of design. No,
Mm.
you were really feeling the design choices where while you were playing that was beneath the game. No, and that's where I started to understand that okay, it could be interesting. Of course, at the beginning, my prototype just sucked. Okay,
They
where all
always do.
people,
They always do. Yeah.
yeah, of course, but I think yeah, and but we know that sucking at things is the first step to to the success, not to the so it. And I just remember some silly prototypes at the beginning. There was something a card game about the Bali cockfights, something like that. Or
Okay.
but I remember one of the first prototype was a success. Still with my friends, was a silly game. The Italian name was I Ciccioni. I'm a bit ashamed by the title because it's in English it means just like the fatties, the chubbies, something like
Oh,
that.
okay. Yeah.
Because it was named about a family that ran a watermelon kiosk here in Parma in
Okay.
summer. Okay, and they were all
Chubby.
really chubby. Okay, they're more than 150 kilos each. No, so it's and all the family was like that. And I just designed a game that each player was a family of watermelon sellers. Okay,
Mm.
and you had to create your fruit salad, something like that. And it was a huge success between my friends. And you just had to make the most money to buy your best vacation for the winter because
Yeah.
the the
They are
question
season
behind the
workers.
game
Yeah.
was okay,
Yeah.
yeah, the question behind the game was okay, what do these people do during the winter? No, so we
Yeah.
imagine the greatest vacations for them. And it's the interesting things is that no, not really so interesting but fun thing is that I already copied something from another game because we always do like this, of course. And there was a market phase, and it was very similar to the civilization market phase, where you could exchange disaster hit them with the with the foils, and it sounded silly, but okay, it worked. So it's the original prototype was sold at a charity auction that we had at Christmas some years
Okay.
after for I think 50 euros. So it's
Oh, so it did pretty well. It did pretty well.
yeah. It was
But which game was the first one that actually became a serious
a published game.
project? Yeah.
Okay, I was very lucky because I think that the first game that I really designed with some attention to details and with some hope to be published was actually published. That was Ur in
Oh yeah.
2006. Ur,
Mm.
yes, and you can already feel
See
that there is
the connection with Tigris and Euphrates. Yeah, it's like
yeah, that's
yeah.
it. Yeah. Oh, yes, it's also the first game I played and the first game I designed were
Yeah.
connected in some way. And also there is already an hint of my design
Interesting
style.
history.
I don't know because many people felt that the game was just an abstract game with a theme pasted on, but
Mm.
actually the game started from the theme, no, and then it was very naked, no, very. But the game started from the feeling of the civilization growing, and that's it.
So it's your
Yeah,
so it's I didn't expect it. So you would say that Ur is a civilization game in a way, like a
yeah, of
civ
course
building
it's
game.
very different. It's very
Yeah.
no, but it's the other sort of inspiration for that game is a game that I don't remember the game of what could be Cells probably. That was a game that ran on a video game that you just had some rules for developing, you know, a cell, a biological microorganism on the
Oh,
and
Spore.
according to the rules. And what?
Spore, I think. Was it
Yeah, that's probably the
yeah.
name. It's just you just saw the spore, no, evolving and dying, no, according to the rules, and that's it. So that's the other source of inspiration for the game, and but it's
Oh, maybe
a
the or
civilization
the
game.
game of life. The game of life where you just choose a shape and then it has basic rules and it develops on a
Yeah,
grid
that's
frame.
probably that's it.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
even remember the original name, but yeah, it's at the very early stages of video gaming. That's it. So it's a very old game.
It's interesting because and we can already start to feel it. Like I feel like you have quite some range in terms of as a designer. You like very Euro-y, sometimes with historical content, more or less deep or complex in terms of mechanic. Even if you don't go for super complex games, but you do have some range. Do you feel like your approach to design evolve over time? Or you just always had multiple interests at the same time and you just do different kinds of game because they scratch different itch? So how do you approach your design process, and how do you approach what kinds of game you want to make?
When I was getting ready for the interview, I realized that I don't have a real design philosophy. No, so it's I don't think so often to my design approach or design philosophy,
Mm,
but sometimes I'm forced when I have to answer questions. So
sorry.
to think about no, it's it's nice sometimes to stop
To reflect. Yeah.
and think about yeah, that's it. And so actually, I think that the overall questions it's the something that has never changed. It is that I just designs games that I like to play, of course. And I think maybe that it's true for every designer, but
Yeah.
I don't think that it's always the. And I like to play very different types of games. So I like to play different type of games also, and also it means that the games that I like to play now are different from the games that I like to play 20 or 10 years ago. So
Mm.
my design approach has changed because my playing approach has changed. No, so it's at the beginning I was there are several things I think that has changed. At the beginning, I was really more fascinated by the mechanics. No, every mechanic
Yeah.
felt new to me. No, so I was very engaged and felt involved by the mechanic itself, and I didn't care so much about the theme. And this is for sure something that has changed because now I get angry when at my gaming table when some people explains the game doesn't start from who we are in the game,
Yes.
no, because okay, that's just what we want to do. I don't care if the team is weak, no, if
Yeah.
just tell me who we are, no, what we are doing, no,
Yeah.
not how to score points, no. So I
Mm.
just want to keep that level of no of team of involvement, no. I just want to feel that I'm someone else for that hour of gaming, no. So and so I really care also in my games, no, to that aspect. Also, I play less games probably, and I design less games than in the past. So in the past, it happened that when I went to a fair, just like Essen, no, as a designer, I had maybe mm, six, eight prototypes in my bag to show to publisher. Right
Yeah.
now, I usually have two or three or none, no, because I just design them through the years and contact publisher. So it's I tend to design less games. So it's and with more probably with more attention to the detail, and I just wanted that. Of course, it doesn't mean that the games are better or perfect or whatever, but I just want to focus on something that I would really like to put on the table after I design it. So it's
Yeah.
while for some games in the past that fortunately have not been published, I just tried. Okay, it's a decent game. Let's try. Now it's not my approach anymore.
But in
Um,
the beginning, it makes sense because you're learning like
yeah,
there are no schools for game design. Like to learn game design, you need to design games, and I guess it makes sense that at the beginning of your journey, you were like throwing stuff on the wall and see what stick, what you enjoyed, what worked, and everything. And then maybe you feel like you became just more mature and clearer on what kinds of game you wanted to do, and where didn't need to explore as much as before.
no, yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's I still want to explore, but I decide what to explore. No,
more
and
focused.
okay, and yeah, yeah, and that's it. Also, also, I don't know if I don't know how it sounds, but sometimes I also feel that I have some reputation. I don't know it's if how to say it, but
That's
I just want
yeah.
that games that with my name have some sort of I don't know, respectability. I don't know how to say it really, no, because of course it won't be true for every game. I'm sure that I will do bad games, and some in my signature in some games will be weaker than in others. So I don't know, but also I just want that okay, when someone knows that a game is from me, maybe that he or she doesn't know what to expect on the type of
Yeah,
game because I still design different type of games, but that there is
an
some sort of
expectation of
signature on it.
quality. Yeah,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah,
Of course, I'm sure that I can. I know that I cannot stand it not for every game because I have to to get a living out of it. So maybe that sometime I have to find compromises, no? But
yeah,
it's still okay. But if I have to decide, if I can decide, I just want to focus on them, and that's it. I think. And also,
yeah.
the other element I think that has changed is that I don't know when it actually changed, but I like level games with a higher level of interaction between
Mm,
players. So while at the beginning, you know, when we I just designed Euro games or family games, you know that it's something to avoid usually. Then
yeah.
I just when I discovered that I like to design two players games, okay, I think okay we cannot avoid it, so just exploit it.
And you designed some pretty mean two-player games. I mean, Caesar, Blitzkrieg, Toy Battle, like those games are brutal. Like they are extremely, extremely, extremely mean. So like the level of interaction is very high, and it's also very aggressive kind of interaction. And yeah, so that's something that over time you realize that you enjoyed more, I guess.
Yeah,
Is
and
there a
also
specific game?
two
Is
players games are easier to play test
Yeah,
because
they
you
are a
just
lot.
need two players.
Yeah, it's easier, and especially if you can do two-player games that play in less than 45 minutes, it's perfect for playtest. You can like push in a lot of playtest, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really good. But on the other hand, two-player means that you need to find a good balance, because when you have more players around the board, you can always say that the group is going to create the balance around
yeah,
the table, two player, like there is no self balance. Like it needs to
No,
it needs to
it
work
has
out
to
of the
get out
box. Yeah,
of the process, of the design process. It has to not perfect, but okay. You
yeah,
cannot
it needs to.
hide
Yeah.
the balance issue.
And was there specific games that you were playing that made you realize that you enjoyed that type of game so much and you decided to design them yourself? Is there like a few games that you started playing and you were like, oh, I really like this and that's the kind of games I want to do?
It's a good question, but actually I don't have a real answer. Probably it's something that it's also at at the base of my developing process in my design style, because I have always been fascinated by war games. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I always remember there was a game shop catalog that from a shop here in Italy run by Nando Ferrari, Giochi dei Grandi. It's one of the most historical game shops here in Italy. Every year he printed a big catalog of his games, of the game of the shop, and there was a description for each of them, a very nice description, fun description, and that's where I started to be fascinated by that type of games. But I knew that there was a commitment at first in money that I didn't have
Yeah.
at the time, no, and then in time for learning the rule and for playing the game and for replaying the game that I didn't have. I didn't want to commit so much time, and it's still something that a trait that I have. No, so I like to explore new games, and I seldom have focus on a specific game and put it again on the table. And so I decided to design games that I was able to play. So war games in different aspects. They are
Yeah.
okay. I don't know if this is the same in France, but in Italy there is a dispute about what you can call a war game and
Oh,
not a war. What's
it's
a war game?
Paolo.
And I
It's
don't
all
care. I
around the
don't care.
world. All it's
Okay,
all
and
around the
I
world.
actually
Like the
I
yeah.
don't care. I don't care.
I don't care
Okay. It's
either.
a
I
war
don't care.
game, but you have to keep the two words divided because it's a game with war about war, but it's not a war game. Okay,
Yeah.
so but to play games with a high level of interaction between the players, but that I could play in less time, but without losing the amount of meaningful decision that you have to take during the game.
And
So
I
I don't
guess
remember a specific game, but
yeah.
it's
But
just something
yeah,
that I felt was missing.
so it's interesting. So you actually started designing those games because you had an interest in war game, but you felt like there were not enough war games for you that were not too expensive, not too complicated to learn, and not too long to play. And it sounds like your Napoleonic battle system is trying to tackle exactly this. Like, is it? Can you tell us about this project? Because I was really surprised that you did something like this, but now that I'm talking to you, I understand that you actually made the war game for Paolo, like the ideal war game, like with actual hexes, with actual counters, with actual like a lot of things that me as a war gamer, I look at this, it's like, whoa, this is purely a war game, but with the Paolo twist on it, that it's like not too complicated to learn, tactical depth, and quite fast to play. So was that the idea, like to make your ideal war game? Like what was
Uh,
the
yeah, it's of course the history behind the battlefields of the Napoleonic Wars is long, strange, a lot of things, because also it's not only my first time as a war game designer. Here, I have no doubts about calling it a war game with
yeah,
connected words.
there are
Okay, because it's
no doubts, yeah.
okay. Of course, it's can still be different from other war games, but it's a war game. But it's also my first time as a publisher, no? Because
Yeah.
yeah, when I designed and produced and I followed the production of Una Vittoria Impossibile, that is the game that we made about the Parma barricades in 1922. Oh, I followed all the production. I followed the art direction and everything. I wrote the rules and everything, and that it was strange, it was complex, but it was fun, and it was really nice to see something that gets out from the printer just like you imagined it. Okay, there was a lot of compromises, of course, because we had printed in Italy, so a lot of compromises. It was not perfect, but I had fun. So I just decided that it could be interesting to do it in the future. And for this war game, that is Battlefields of the Napoleonic Wars, I decided to follow this route. And what to tell about this game is that is a co-design first thing. So it's I designed it with Alessandro Zucchini, that is also the co-designers of Toy Battle. So it's two very different games, but yeah, but he is also a board game designer. He hasn't designed board games for a quite long time, but he designed some successful games in the past. And when he lives near Parma, and we met to play some games and talk about game design. Okay, and he challenged me to design with him a war game. No, he always he is also a grognard, so always he played La Bataille and some very complex Napoleonic War games. So it's
some monster war games.
Yeah. So it was used to play also complex war games, and he always had the house rules for every game, because he didn't also love complex rules. Okay, so he challenged me to design with him a war game, a Napoleonic war game, and it's often the spark behind the challenge. For me is a very important spark. Okay, when I'm challenged to do something, I always appreciate, and so it's okay. And I said, why not? No, and I discovered that it's a completely different world. It's a completely different world. Designing a war game and designing for war gamers, it's a completely different world than designing a board game. But yeah, it's again, it's something that I could play and that I love to play. So it's here the goal, and it's strange, because I call it. There is a risk that I call it the Ridley Scott risk.
That's a big risk.
Yeah. Is the goal was to appeal both newcomers that that play board games but weren't really interested in war games, action counter wargaming. Okay, but we're fascinated by history maybe, and grognard, veteran players that not always have the time or commitment to put on the table something very, very long, but that could appreciate something shorter, but that still have the appeal and the flavor and the choices of a Napoleonic War games. Okay, just more straightforward, And I call it the risk, the Ridley Scott effect, because of course the risk is to
annoy everyone.
That's it. Because there is too much history for who doesn't want history, and too little history for who loves history. So too simulation or too little simulation. That's it. So it's. And I was so disappointed when I saw when I went to the cinema to see Napoleon from Ridley Scott. That I'm fucked.
I haven't seen it because I thought I was going to be annoyed by it. I really like Ridley Scott as a movie maker, and there's a lot of movies that he made that I thought are great, but I think at some point he got too old and maybe too arrogant, and I think the outcome of what he did started to, for me, significantly decrease in quality, and it looked like Napoleon was the peak of him not realizing that he's just, maybe he should be less arrogant in his approach to portraying historical topic. But
maybe I should rewatch it, but the expectation were so high, before the movie, that the feeling was that his goal was just to annoy Napoleon fans, that just like it was
which is a great goal,
a movie of the half of the 19th century. There is no need not to annoy, there is no Napoleon, really a Napoleon Napoleon fan, no? So it's what's the matter? So that's it.
And you say that often in your design process you like to steal ideas from other designs, they inspire you and everything. I was wondering specifically on building this Napoleonic system, or where there were games that got your attention and you thought were doing interesting things that inspired you for your design.
As I told you, I'm not really a big war game player. So actually, the process was strange because for everything, no, and for getting some sort of warranty of on the that what we are doing was correct. I was
Yeah,
asking no Alessandro, the
yeah,
designer. Okay, this makes sense. This doesn't make sense. No, okay. Columns do like this, and okay, this makes sense. The artillery can do like this, but okay, because
yeah, yeah.
I didn't really have the experience to. But it's strange because it's. I'm not answering your question now, but it's strange
That's
because
fine.
I discovered that not only playing games but also designing games is a great way to learn things. No,
Yeah.
so yeah, so it's to get in that rabbit hole of learning things. So I didn't know almost anything about the Napoleonic warfare before designing the game, and I know that maybe for some for who follows your channel, maybe that's okay. why why the fuck
No,
he designed the games, but it's strange because at some moment I discovered myself reading essays about what was the pace of columns when marching, or what was, and so and if there is okay, if columns did really assaulting columns or it was just a way to move around, and that's it. No, so it's I got completely sunk in this type of information. No,
I think this is super interesting, and it's also a point because I've done a few. I like to talk about games as a way to explore history, and I usually say both by playing them or making them. And it's really interesting that you say this because I often talk about the fact that designing a game on an historical topic is a way to engage with the history. You don't come with all the knowledge, and actually, for people like me that are not academics, the process of designing game gives me the focus to explore the history. So when you're talking about making this Napoleonic game and I learn about a doctrine of Napoleonic warfare, I can totally relate because for me that's a way like I'm interested in the topic, and through the process of designing I'm going to discover a lot of things because they are going to have an impact on my game. And I think it makes total sense, so I can totally relate to that. That's super interesting. But yeah, and but in the end you relied on your co-designer's experience of war games, but you didn't play like Napoleonic war
okay,
games yourself
for me
during war.
I have to admit something that I don't know how it sounds, but for me
It sounds awful,
it's
Paolo. It sounds awful.
yeah, I know, but I have to, if I have to say something that I really wanted to not copy, but
Hmm.
the feeling, sort of feeling that I wanted to give it with the game was just Memoir 44 for me. It's just
Oh,
it's not Memoir 44. It's a higher level of complexity. I know maybe it's I don't know how it sounds for, but it's for
no, no,
me
no, but
okay.
it makes total sense
Because when I
because
play Memoir 44, okay, I have fun, and that's still the most important things in my. I do a lot of I take a lot of choices when playing the game. I have fun. Maybe this is not the most historical game ever, but I don't care at all, and it leaves me with the curiosity to explore maybe the what was happening, and that's it. So for me, it's not the perfect game, but I never refuse a game of Memoir 44, and I felt that there was still space for the type of for feeling, no, to
yeah,
also
yeah,
I don't want to call it I don't like to use the term gateway game, no, because it's
yeah,
just like you have to go somewhere after playing that game, no, because it's just
yeah, yeah.
but
It doesn't have
I
to be
think that
like the yeah.
yeah, I for example I speaking for myself, I just stop there, no, I stop at
Hmm.
gateway, or often I just stop at gateway games. I don't feel the need to explore with more complex games with more rules and whatever, okay. And I think, but okay, generally speaking, my design philosophy and my publishing philosophy is just for look outside in the world if there is someone else that has my my taste for things.
Yeah.
No, so it's for playing, and it looks like it's maybe it's not the mass market, no, but there is a niche of people that like playing games like I do. That's it.
But I think it makes a lot of sense, and I like the fact that you mentioned Memoir 44 because I think it's a great game. Like I have no, I know that some people in the wargaming space are critical of it. I think it's awesome. And regarding the historicity, I think the game was so successful that it enabled to release so many expansion that it ended up covering a lot of topics about World War II warfare that are not necessarily covered by other war games, like early conflict between Russia and Japan just before, like in 1931, in 1939. Like there is a lot of stuff that they managed to cover just because of the sheer success of the core system that we didn't see elsewhere. So for me, just for that, it's really interesting, and I think it's a very streamlined and elegant approach for representing battle that is really accessible. But Memoir 44 in a Napoleonic setting exists. It's called Command and Colors Napoleonics. And I'm thinking, Paolo, if you want, at some point, I would be more than happy to have you on stream and we can play a game of Command and Color Napoleonics. It is, I think, a bit more complex than your game. But it is actually, if you like Memoir 44, I think you're going to have a lot of fun playing this one.
I think that our goal, we know that the main competitor for that for our game was going to be Command and Color Napoleonics. Maybe that Command and Color Napoleonic in some choices feels a bit more forced, just like to adapt some rules coming from another game adapted to another settings, and some of the choices, design choices, feels a bit forced. I don't know if I
it makes sense.
Okay. While of course in this case, of course there are other elements that make the game different. Of course, it's a lower complexity for sure. I think at least, but also it's everything is made from scratch with Napoleonic warfare, no, in mind. So from the formation elements and everything that in Command and Color Napoleonics is behave a little no in little stranger things, no, in a way. Here is more straightforward and embedded. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, it's baked into the system. Whereas, as you say, I think a perfect example of what you say is the square formation, for example. Like
the card
when you're
that you have to apply to the
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to put a small counter to indicate that you're in square formation here. And you have the core system, and then you have all those little Napoleonic bits that come on top of it to make it work within a Napoleonic framework. So it starts from the Command and Color framework, and then it adds on top to make it match Napoleonics.
Because of course, and that's the whole difference. Sorry. That's the whole difference that I felt that exists from between war game designers and board game designers usually, no? Because war game designers usually have the tendency and have to add things, no? To
add layers
on top,
and
because to simulate other things, and I discovered that we couldn't really escape this thing. Okay, we knew that we had to have reactions to assault, no? That cavalry had to evade when charged by infantry, and the infantry had to form squares, no? So it's something that when you design a board game, you really don't care about it. Okay, just simplify. Okay, but you know that when you are designing a war game, you cannot really ignore everything, no? But while war game designers don't mind about adding rules and commas, I don't really say it just like it was a bug or a fault of war game designers.
No, it's not just a criticism. It's a different approach.
A different state of the mind. I don't know how, but it's just for both for war game designers and for war game players. I discovered it's. Sorry if I'm derailing the interview, but
no, it's completely fine. Yeah.
No, it's strange because in my gaming group we also have gamers and real war gamers. I trust me. Okay, that when I show them when I show one of them the battlefields of the Napoleonic War, Wars, at first it was a bit not really disappointed. He had fun. In the game there is a system, a combat resolution system that doesn't use modifiers. Okay,
Yeah.
there are these special dice with that are unlike commands and colors. Okay, there are have specific faces with I call it just like embedded modifiers, no, because faces can be successful or not successful, no, as a result if you satisfy some requirements. For example, if you have a leader next to the assaulting unit, or if you fire on a column that is easier than firing on a line, for example, or something like that. Roll the dice and then check what phases are success and what are not. And I think that the system works, no, and it's intended to remove all the fiddliness, no, of calculating modifiers and looking at the CRT table, no.
Yeah.
Showed it to Fabrizio, that is a wargame player. Okay, it disappointed, no, but because okay, no, I think it works. No, I had to explain it, the maths behind, no, the dice that still work like an embedded CRT, something like that.
Yeah.
No, I think it still works, but I really like to calculate modifiers and look and check the CRT. So at some point, I was okay. Okay,
That's
you
classic.
can imagine my reaction. Okay, what the fuck?
Yeah.
No, all the design process to remove everything, you know, to make everything more straightforward, and then but at some point I realized that was not that it was strange, but that wargame players actually like some habits, some habits, some things that it's not it's just different, and just with different things that they look for in the games. And at some point I was tempted to put a CRT in the game for who wanted to play with normal dice and to have modifiers. No, okay, that's the game. But if you really want to play it the old way, don't mind. You can still play it with the CRT, and we didn't go that way. But okay, maybe there is space for optional rules.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure someone on BGG might do it. If the game is successful enough among grognards, someone will come up with a house rule. But what you said, I think, is really spot on, and I really recognize a lot of people that I know, and sometimes to tease them when they play those hex and counter games and they calculate their ratio and they look at the CRT and they find the modifiers. What I tell them is that they play competitive Sudoku, and they don't play and they actually don't play a war game. It annoys them, but there is a bit of this, and it's like knitting, you know. It's like it's a process that they enjoy. They like to count their leader numbers, counters, and everything. And I can totally understand.
It's difficult to understand it, but maybe that everyone can look for whatever he likes in the games. No, so it's actually when we have a gaming night and there are two players playing an old war game, something from the 80s maybe, or whatever, and they spend most of the night, of course, reading at rules rather than
and making
playing games. Okay. Yeah. And at the end, okay, we play just one turn, but it's just useful for next time. And of course, I say to you, I don't have the commitment, for this type of games. But for who has that type of habit, is perfectly fine, though. But it's just something that I can understand, can put in my design process. I don't know if I.
No, it makes total sense. Maybe just to conclude this discussion, because we derailed a bit, but I thought it was really interesting to talk about those differences between those two sides of the hobby. I was wondering about what comes next. So you started doing a bit of publishing, because this Battlefields of Napoleonic Battles is your first self-published game. So what's coming up next? Are you going to keep on publishing more games, or are you going to do maybe some expansion packs for this Napoleonic game? What's coming up next for your as a publisher, Paolo Mori, the publisher? What's the idea?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, of course the format of Battlefields of the Napoleonic Wars is thought to be just like a series, not like Commands and Colors. So there shouldn't be new boxes, but just new battles. That it's each battle is just like a folder with a map of the battle and a folder that works like a battle board, some board that you use during the game with the special rules, with the tracks, with everything, all the infos you need for the specific battles. So it should be easy not to think about them, but to produce new maps for the game. And I really hope that the game will be successful enough to stand new to have new maps. But I think that for sure there will be. Also, if we just sell 200 or 300 copies for the sake of people that bought the game, we will do some more expansion, and then we will stop whenever we feel that we have to stop. I use the plural, but actually it's just me. So it's I will decide to stop when I feel that it's. But I hope that the game is successful, of course. And for other games, I don't know. Actually, is the same as I won't stop designing games for other publisher. For the more mainstream ones, probably I don't have at least currently, but it's not the goal of my publishing adventure, to publish any type of games that I think can be successful, but just for those games that I feel I can have the capabilities, the skill to produce it, and it's and can be oriented to a niche that finding a different publisher could be not so easy, and so I don't know. I think for example, one of the next game could be probably a solitaire about football in the early age of football. So it's strange, but it's
still historical. Like
I wanted to give it an historical flavor because I don't like really that football manager type of things. So it's just, since the focus is actually on playing the games rather than on managing your society or whatever, it's going to be set in the early days of football. And this is something I designed some years ago during the pandemic, probably. No, everyone was playing solitaires during the pandemic, and it's something that I could produce myself. But actually I don't have big plans for my publishing adventure. I'm just see what's next. There is another game that I will probably do with my. I designed. That could be interesting from. It's still historical, quite historical at least. It's about when Americans fought Nazis in the past. You remember when Americans were in the Nazis, no? And and there is it's. I don't know if you.
No,
I'm sorry.
But I'll have problems. We talk about it afterwards. But
I'm sorry. It's just like that when I take the game out of the drawer. It now it feels a bit strange, no? Because it's a game on that you. It's a cooperative game where you have this group of soldiers, no, from the Second World War, but you are moving on a just like a page of a comic book from the 50s, no?
Great.
So like you are moving.
Okay.
You are moving in these scenes, no? In the and every scene of this comic has some type of effects. So there is this cooperative adventure to take the machine gun down, to capture the hostage, and so on. And so you just it's something like that. And I think it's the concept is very neat. I think it's
that sounds really cool. I'm really curious about that now. Okay,
and I think it's and it's something else that has changed in my design philosophy. It's strange because now I call it pitch driven. Now the pitch is the moment where you show the game to a publisher. And so it's just the first sentence or two sentences, that you use to describe the game to a publisher, no. And now if I'm designing games that, and I don't find the sentence. It's not related to the publisher anymore. No, in my design process.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if I don't find the sentence that could explain the game, no, and make you excited in one sentence, okay, sometimes I feel that it's just not worth it, no, because
Oh, that's
okay,
really interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
I get what
and
you mean now. Yeah.
and that's why it's not anymore about the mechanic, because it's difficult that the game mechanic is the thing that gets you excited in a sentence. Okay,
Yeah.
it's something more connected to the theme of the game, but the product of the game and what you do in the game. No, if you cannot express it, it's something that doesn't stand out. No, in a sentence or two. Okay, maybe that it's not worth it. It's not something that is really explicit. No, but if I describe the game to someone else and doesn't get excited, okay, maybe it's not worth it. I don't know if
Okay, so that's really interesting. I think it's a really interesting approach. And then my last question to you would be, not looking to Paolo Mori as a publisher, but as a designer, what is your next game you think coming out? Don't tell the title, don't tell the publisher. Can you give us just the elevator pitch of it? Like
okay. I will tell a couple of hints of future games. One will be an investigative games that is set in a cemetery, but it's
oh,
something. It's not not with an horror theme or morbid theme. It's nothing like that. But it feels just like being in the Spoon River anthology. I don't know if you know that it's a poetry. It's a poetry book from Edgar Lee Masters. That is
Alan,
was
yeah,
an American poet from the last century. So it's just about reading tombstones, the on and looking at photos on the tombstones, and discovering the secrets and the stories and the puzzles that are behind them. So you are just that's it. It's and I think it's again the it's cool. It was cool to
yeah.
design it, and it's
That sounds really interesting. Yeah.
and then you
Originally, when
will
you said this, it made me think about the Fumeti Dylan dog. I don't know if you,
yeah, of course.
but it's
Yeah,
not.
but okay,
Yeah,
as there is no paranormal anything
yeah. That's what
paranormal
I thought.
or
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, but the feeling could be like that. Yeah, it could be, but it's just like going in an old cemetery, and I don't know if you ever go to cemetery, but sometimes I just look at the tombstones and
And try to
wonder at
understand.
what were the lives, and if this was the parent of that people, no, and if they have the same surname but they are so distant, the tombstone, they are connected or not, no. So it's something like that, no, as a feeling.
Yeah.
And another game that I think you will wait for a bit more, so won't be. I think there will be. I will say just two games.
Yeah.
Will be the new edition of Dogs of War
Oh, okay.
that
Yeah.
will come out. I think this year or next year. Who knows? Because it's the moment is not so easy to schedule releases of games.
Yes.
You know, so it's the new edition of Dogs of War that also this one at the beginning had a very historical team because it was named Hawkwood, like John Hawkwood, that was an English condottiere, no, in
Yeah.
English in the low middle age. And the third one is a game that I'm designing with David Thompson.
Oh,
Uh,
he's
so
always
it's
somewhere. David is always somewhere.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
is it a solo game or a different game?
No, is of course it's a two-player games, and of course
Yeah.
if since David is with me, it will be set in the Second World War again.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
So
I'm
it's
not surprised. Yeah, but I guess now I'll just send a message to.
unsurprisingly.
Yeah, yeah, I would send a message to him and ask him to give me some secrets about this. I'm super interested. But yeah, that was really great talking to you, Paolo. As I we talked outside the stream. I will invite you to play some games on the show. We are working on planning a session of your Napoleonic game. So people watching this interview should expect coming soon a teach and play session of that game, so you can discover it a bit more. And hopefully, I will get to convince you to play other games on the show in the future. But it was really great to
It will,
talk
it
to
will,
you.
it will be fun. I
Yeah,
followed
I think so.
partially your stream of Elau
It's
last Sunday. So
it's
it's
one of those games that I think you should try, because I think it's really interesting the way it does. Like, it takes a lot of classic concepts, but then again, it does different things, and I think there is some
yeah. And
overlapping
now
ideas.
also easier
Yeah.
to try the new one by Car Paradise.
Yes,
From
I was thinking about
yeah.
this one. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's
Battle Commander.
definitely,
Okay,
yeah.
I talked with Uwe in Bologna last week, a couple of weeks ago when there was a gaming festival, and we had a photo each one keeping the game of the other publisher. No? So it's a good moment for who wants to try something new about Napoleonics. No? So
Yeah, it's a really great time. But I will reach out to Uwe, and maybe I can convince him to send me some review copies, so we can actually do a play session together. So that would be interesting to have your perspective on this one.
yeah,
And Carl is a
for sure,
designer
it will be fun.
that I like a lot. So that's great. But thanks a lot, Paolo. Thanks for the
Thank
people
you.
who are watching us. Remember that you can subscribe to the channel if you want to support us. You can like this video, you can share it. And the other thing that you can do is donate on Coffee. Will be the link in the description. And if you do, you will have an exclusive invitation to our Discord server, on which Paolo is on Discord. So that's a
Yeah,
great place to be in. So thanks, everyone. And
strongly suggested.
yeah, and I would say subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of Paolo, because we're going to be playing together his Napoleonic game in the near future. Bye bye.